Hey everyone, here we are today at Parker Automotive. Today we are working on a 1996 Toyota Camry. Today is November 16th, 2016. So there's a little bit of history on this Toyota. I'm just going to set it up and then I'm going to tell you, have the mechanic tell you about what he's doing. So on October 22nd, this car came in. Well, it was a no start. It actually got towed in. And on that day, the problem was diagnosed with, it had a bad ignition coil. It had a bad crank position sensor. Those parts were replaced. We provided them, and then the car drove out. 2 days later, now this customer is a long-term customer. Actually, because this is a 96 and it has 224,000 miles on it, we did advise him, you know, because of the year and the miles, you might, and the condition of the wires and everything in the car, maybe you might want to start considering getting a new vehicle. You may not want to put any more money into this vehicle because it's old and it's got a lot of miles. The customer informed us that 10 months ago, he put on a new catalytic converter. He put on a new, was there something else? A transmission.
New transmission.
And because of that, because of all that money he had invested 10 months ago, he wanted to continue to fix this car up and invest money in it. When the car left that day, we had some recommendations. We recommended a tune-up. We said possibly the ignition igniter module could be bad. We also noted that the timing belt was loose. We also noted that it appears wires are dry rotted. You know, this is an older car. Things are crumbling apart and dry rotting. It was also noted that maybe they didn't maintain their oil changes properly throughout the years. So with that said, 2 days later, October 24th, the car came back. It drove here, but the customer said that the performance was bad. It was stalling out, and so he was concerned about that. So the mechanic found that day that the distributor was bad. So I'll let you go from there.
Okay, so to reiterate, this car came in with a no start, and during the process of diagnosing, I found that the crank position sensor was bad. It was faulty, and that the coil was faulty. I also, during that time, tested the ignition core. This is a cam position sensor, or a pickup coil, or a crank position A sensor. And then also the igniter, which is right here. But they weren't faulty at the time. Right here.
That's the igniter.
And
that's where's the new coil. There's
and the new coil is right here.
On.
This right here is where the distributor goes. This is a 96, so it still has a distributor and a cap and rotor, and that's this right here. This right here, this little sensor that's up underneath of here, this is basically a pickup coil or a cam position sensor. This vehicle names it as being a crank position sensor A, but it's still a cam position sensor. This is the rotor right here, the distributor rotor, and then there's also a cap which goes over top of this. Then the plugs attached to here in their sequence. And then you have your coil wire, which goes into the middle, which delegates the spark. Like you can, I don't know if you can see in there, but this spins around the rotor and it makes contact, and that's what sends the spark. Well, they came back the second time when I replaced the coil, and they brought, for the cost of the amount of money of just the sensor itself, it was cheaper to buy the whole distributor. They provided it, and
so after we gave them our diagnosis,
right,
they went and they bought one from a local parts store.
Right.
This is what they provided to us. Now today is November 16th, about 2 weeks later.
Right. And it's defective.
Came in again today for what?
A no start. Right, no start.
Here's what we found.
And this is what I found. Upon pulling, I was checked for spark. I was getting nothing. So then I pulled the cap. And before I was going to pull the rotor, I went to spin the rotor. It's not supposed to be able to do that. This right here, this little gear that goes on the back of the distributor, it actually slides into the camshaft, and when the camshaft spins, then it turns the rotor, and the rotor delegates the spark sequence. Well, there's a roll pin. There's actually a pin that goes into this hole and then goes into the shaft to lock it in tight. Well, the roll pin
Is missing.
So that means it fell off inside of the motor.
And now you got to try to find it.
Well, yeah, now I'm going to have to pull the valve cover off and, do more work. And my whole point is, when you buy an aftermarket part, every part is aftermarket, I understand that. But when you buy the cheapest possible, or you buy a reman, it's basically one of those terminologies that say you get what you pay for. They might have paid close to $100 cheaper for this to get it at a local parts store, but
now
you
they're
see it
paying you today for your
Right.
labor again.
Right. Well, I'm not going to charge this customer only because he's a dedicated customer. But if this were just, I probably would replace it for anybody. But the point being is, if I was anywhere else, because we do have a stipulation, you provide your parts and those parts go defective, I got to charge you more. And the whole gist of this is, sometimes you're going to pay more money for a part. And what you're paying for is longevity. If you buy a part for $50, $100 cheaper, you get what you pay for. If you want your part to last more than the guaranteed warranty that they give you to manufacture, in this case, this is Mexico, and it's remanned from Mexico, you get what you pay for. It is what it is. So, and I hate to put that out there, but what I'm trying to say is, remanufactured parts are good. It just depends on where you're getting them from. In most cases that we found, when we buy these cheaper parts, we get less life out of them. And and I try to explain to people from the beginning, you're paying what you're getting, as opposed to what you're paying. Sometimes isn't doesn't match. Meaning, you pay $50 for this, you pay $100 for the good one. I don't know. Okay. All right. Just want to say, God bless
That's
America.
it. So really, it falls on us today. We'll be eating our time, eating our labor to help this customer out. But in most cases, if this wasn't a person that came here all the time, they'd probably be paying us again.
Let's redo it. It's okay. Just turn it off and redo